Okay, so let's begin. Welcome everyone. Welcome to this live webinar on the future of supply chain. I am Paresh Masade. I am founder and CEO of WOW. We help education institutions with their alumni relations. And today, I'm happy to present in association with NITIE Alumni Association, this webinar on the future of supply chain. NITIE has been known as a mecca of supply chain, and we have really prominent speakers and distinguished alumni of NITIE joining us live today. Our first guest, let me take a couple of minutes to introduce our guest. Our first guest is Dr. Rakesh Sinha. He has a distinction of being the first doctorate in India in supply chain management. He is an alumnus of 1980 batch of NITIE and is a founder and CEO of Reflexive Supply Chain Solutions. Dr. Sinha has also been working with Godrej in the global supply chain for about 4 decades now, and he's also an alumnus of IIT BHU and IIT Bombay, and also did his advanced management program in Harvard Business School. So welcome to the panel, Dr. Sinha.
Thank you. Thanks, Paresh.
We have also with us Mr. Saurabh Kumar, CEO of GMR Cargo. He's alumnus of 2003 batch of NITIE, and prior to which he was also CEO of GMR Hospitality and Retail, and also worked with Tata Strategic Management Group and ENY. He brings in a deep insights to us in the logistics sector. And so Mr. Saurabh, welcome to the panel.
Thanks.
I would like to welcome Mr. Murugan. Murugan is Mr. Murugan is a graduate of 2004 batch and is Director of Global Planning Excellence at J&J Consumer. He has worked with companies like Marico, Cadbury, Dell, and he brings in a strong expertise on supply chain operations, planning, digital, and data science areas. Welcome to you all. Welcome, Mr. Murugan.
Thanks, Paresh.
Yeah. So before we begin the session, a couple of things. Guys, you can actually post your questions in the Q&A panel here on the right, and we will take a few questions post our initial discussions. And also for friends who are not able to join our live conference on Zoom, they can actually view it on YouTube live on the same link that we have shared. I shared the link in the chat box as well. So it's, so in case any of your friends are not able to join this call, you can actually share that with them. Right. So, so let me start with Dr. Sinha. Dr. Sinha, we have been hearing that COVID-19 brings in, it's been a disruption in the supply chain industry, and but companies have been looking forward for some of the companies have been prepared for this kind of disruption, and some of them are not. So can you just give us insights about the impact that's caused by COVID-19 and few important aspects that are critical to supply chain?
Yeah, Paresh. Let me first admit that it's one of the greatest challenges that supply chain professionals have ever encountered, at least in my memory.
Yeah, okay.
The good thing is it has forced us to focus on some of the very fundamentals of supply chain. And I'll explain what those fundamentals are. People are either consciously or even intuitively going back and taking actions which are in line with the fundamentals of supply chain. Unfortunately, many companies don't do that when things are normal. Hope they continue doing it when we come to the new normal. Now, coming to the fundamentals of supply chain, the first and foremost is, are we really listening to the consumers? The way conventional supply chains are run, and most of the companies still do that, is the demand sensing part from the consumer side is done periodically. It is discussed threadbare in processes like sales and operations planning process or integrated business planning process. And we get a view of the future demand, typically either on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. Now that's no longer relevant because the way things are changing every day, the weekly buckets and monthly buckets don't mean anything. It has to be a daily bucket every day. And people are now, during the pandemic, moving to sensing demand on a daily basis And they are doing it either consciously or just intuitively because they can't manage the supply chain otherwise. So, and getting as close to the consumer for sensing demand as possible. It's no longer relevant to see the demand at a state level or at a district level. It has to be at a store level.
Okay.
That's where the action is. So in a sense, consumers are giving us so many different signals every day. For example, if you take the portfolio of the products, consumers are telling us we don't really bother about the range of fragrances or the range of colors, etc. I don't need a hand wash specifically with lime fragrance or a jasmine fragrance. Just get me any hand wash. So they are asking for portfolio simplicity. They are also giving us signals about the portfolio sizes. I don't need small packs of sanitizers. I need large packs of 500 ml, etc. So every day they are sending signals, and supply chains need to listen to these signals and run accordingly. Whether it's procurement or manufacturing or distribution, these consumer signals are very important. So good thing is people are listening to consumers now on a continuous basis and running their supply chain. So in effect, they are moving from a forecast-driven supply chain to a demand-driven supply chain during the pandemic. And I sincerely hope that they continue with the demand-driven supply chain even when we reach the new normal. The second important part is whether the company is having a unified response to the consumer demand. So what I mean is all the supply chain actions, the three major actions of what to procure, what to manufacture, and what to distribute. All the supply chain actions should take inputs directly from consumer demand. Now, in conventional things, once a plan or a demand view is agreed upon in S&OP or IBP, procurement has its own plan, manufacturing has its own plan, and distribution has its own plan. Now, when the actual demand changes and consumer signals are changing every day, do we adjust these plans on a daily basis? Very few companies do that. At the most, they adjust the distribution plan. Many companies are doing that on a daily or a weekly basis. But other plans like procurement plan and production plan are adjusted much less frequently. Some companies have started adjusting on a weekly basis, others don't adjust even that. Now, in the current scenario, it's so dynamic that all the three plans, purchase plan, production plan, and distribution plan, has to be rejigged every day based on what the consumer signals are, where the acceleration is, where the deceleration is, which products are selling, which products are not getting picked up by the consumers. So it has to be unified response by the company. And the only signal that matters is the consumer demand. So luckily, during this pandemic, these things are falling in place. And again, this is one of the fundamentals of the supply chain. The third fundamental is, are all these functions working towards a common company goal, or do they have their own individual functional goals? In many companies, we see that purchase tries to minimize the cost of purchase, even if it means large batch sizes of certain materials, even if it means getting products from a far off place, maybe thousands of kilometers away, instead of a local purchase. Production is wary of producing in small batches because of the changeovers and their own production efficiency is getting affected. So in normal times, many companies resort to the individual functional goals. Now, that's not the way to run supply chain. And luckily, during the pandemic, everyone is responding to the common company goal of getting the products faster to the consumers. Now, that's the way supply chain should be run. So there are some lessons from the pandemic that all supply chain people need to take. One is sense the demand as close to the consumer as possible, as frequently as possible, and in as a granular manner as possible. So that's the first part. The second is that all the functions should base their actions based on what the demand is, where the acceleration is. And the third is each one should subordinate their individual functional goals to the overall company goal of meeting the availability and freshness of products. Now, these three lessons, which are fundamentals of supply chain, are coming alive and people are realizing the importance of this. I hope that these lessons remain with them and they don't forget it and go back to the old ways of working. but continue running the supply chain in a demand-driven manner, even post the pandemic when we reach the new normal. So these were my first thoughts on what's changing in the supply chain, how companies are responding, and what's the future.
Sure. So what you're saying is fundamentally COVID-19 has brought back us to the basics, and
Yes.
the principles that we have learned about supply chain. Actually, now we are forced to follow them, and
Yes.
hope the companies will continue doing that post-pandemic as well. So let me point a question to Mr. Saurabh. You've been heading logistics, and in this time of crisis, it's said that logistics team is the only team that's actually working, right? So how do you look at this crisis, and what are the opportunities that it would present?
So, Paresh, hope I'm audible, clear?
Yes, yes, sir.
Good. So, as you rightly said, logistics is working across the country. In fact, when everything else is in still mode, I think very important that essential items, including food, medicine, keeps moving. And if you realize all the modes of transport in the country today, the only mode of transport which is effectively operational is the air transport. There's a huge challenge in ground movement, and railway is currently catering to extremely essential and defense movement. However, all the major airports in the country are operational all the day, 24/7, and all the freighter aircrafts. In fact, today anything which has to come from anywhere outside the country is only coming by air, because whatever is coming is required in quite urgency. And with great significance to the nation and the community, and that's where the significance of movement or logistics, both at the raw material side as well as on the finished goods side, comes into place. So for the last almost for the last 1.5 months, I think there's so much of things that has changed the way we look at logistics as a part of supply chain. However, I'll just, considering the audience that I have, which is essentially, students and people who are into this field and the industrial few entrepreneurs, I think I will restrict my insights into certain areas which I feel are very relevant. I think first and foremost, I have to acknowledge and tell all of you that the importance of logistics and supply chain has never been felt so, significantly as it is today. In fact, if you call any company, if you go and talk to the directors of any company, he's going to ask you, what the topmost concern in his mind would be, movement of his goods, coming, his raw material coming to his place, and the raw material and the finished goods going up. So it's the function of supply chain, the function of logistics has become very significant. I think it was somewhere between the core function and support function, but I think it is for sure a very significant department or function in any organization. The second thing I want to highlight is we have spent the last so many decades optimizing the logistics or optimizing the supply chain. When I say optimizing, we put in so much of effort to streamline it, stretch it, make it just in time, have only the required amount of goods traveling, only the required amount of materials in our warehouse. But I think somewhere this pandemic has given us a second thought that, are we correct in being so optimized, and we have been using sophisticated and all kinds of algorithms from red to green, all kinds of algorithms to optimize what we have in supply chain and optimize the cost. But I think today, if you see, what we are looking at is how do I overcome certain disruptions that can come in midway with all the sophisticated planning of all the multinationals. Still, each and every company is struggling. There is nobody who can say, oh, my supply chain is so good that I get everything on time and I'm working offline. So there is a need for us to review at how we have been looking at raw materials, at how we are looking at warehousing, and how we are looking at supply logistics, to make sure that at least we are able to take care of disruptions, and it can come anytime. We all in this age of communication, where anything within a second travels from everywhere to anywhere. Still, we are still where we are. You all understand. So that's the second thing I said, that the fundamental concepts are being challenged, and there is a need to factor in what I call is disruptions. Third thing is for a long time, business continuity planning, BCPI, and I would say it was was more a concept, was more a document. But I think today I'm running an organization. We are talking to a lot of people. People are really talking about that subject.
Right.
Saying that if you don't have your resources in place, if you don't have your people in place, if you're not able to get the spares and systems, how are you going to run the organization? Is there a double backup plan, which whether it is manual doesn't matter, but can you run or not? I think that part is very important for us. And fourth thing that I want to touch upon is on manpower. I think we all talk about we have all been talking about manpower productivity, but here we are, and when we talk about manpower productivity, people talk about 5%, 10%, 15%. But I think where we are headed now is a kind of doubling the manpower productivity, because we are in a situation where people are scarce, but goods have to move, and Indian supply chain in general is fairly still dependent on manpower. That's the fourth thing, and there are a few other things which I'll touch upon, Paresh, when we go ahead in this.
Sure, absolutely. So, Mr. Murugan, now back to you. Now that we are impacted, what do you think can we improve about the resilience of supply chain? Because how can actually the analytics and data play a major role in probably creating what Sir was saying about creating a DRP-based full systems?
Sure, Paresh, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So good morning to all. I think thanks for providing me the opportunity, the NITIE and the organizers, and hope everyone is staying safe at home. Kind of want to start with saying that with a quick disclaimer that the point of view is what I would be sharing as more like more from a supply chain as a supply chain professional in this conversation, not a point of view of J&J. I just want to make that quick disclaimer. And I want to share broadly around the global perspective, not much on the Indian context, and I want to cover at a fairly high level. Having said that, let me split this conversation into two portions. One is around the impact, right, and how is the new normal going to look like, and in more from the impact or kind of what's happening around us. I would say it's not the first time, right? We had a lot of incidents around the flooding, tsunami. 2018 alone, we had 4 hurricanes in the US, devastating the country. We had a US-China trade war, Hong Kong unrest. So there have been many such things are happening around the world. But so far, we have been just an audience to such a black swan events. But now this is the first time we are becoming a participant of such a pandemic. And COVID-19 is arguably the most impactful than all these events all put together, more from a scale and a scope perspective. That's kind of leaving us with. This is the bigger one because COVID is touching everyone at this point in time, and it's going to leave a long and a strong impact to the economy and to various supply chains. And if you look at the recent study of Accenture, which says that 94% of Fortune 1000 organizations are seeing the impact. 94%, it's a whooping number, and already 50% of them have already revised their growth downwards. There's no, and much more is going to happen, right? And this has completely halted the production, planning, distribution in a significant period of time, and which is my strong belief is any supply chain. It is very difficult for the supply chain to absorb, and this is the time when I also realize that supply chain is becoming the biggest risk for an organization during this time of disruptions, right? Dr. Sinha has called out, and Saurabh has called out many things. But my personal humble belief is all those brilliant concepts on flexibility, agility, robust supply chain, lean manufacturing, everything is fumbling. Because of the depth and the width of the impact what we are currently going through it. And I'm sure that as a global community, we would come out of this and we would, very importantly, I think Dr. Sinha started mentioning that we need to take out the learnings from this incident and then this kind of epidemics, and then we need to devise what is the way forward going to look like. Now, let me touch upon what is the new normal going to look like, right? That's a subject or a topic of today's discussion. And most of you being a budding managers and some want to build the capability, etc., I just want to ensure that I share my perspective on how is the new normal is going to look like in supply chain. And I call it as a road to the new normal, which are very critical aspects, which are going to be the future of supply chain. I really mean the road, ROAD, so that people could able to remember. Let me start with one of our, which is predominant, and some of them could be a repetition of the earlier speakers, but uh, basically we touch upon the similar point of views, right? The R in the road stands for the resiliency, and O in the road stands for the offshoring, and A stands for the fundamental agile capabilities, and D stands for the digitization in supply chain. So let me take out a minute or two in covering each of those acronyms. Which is, let me start with the first one on the fundamental agile capabilities, which you will see how organizations are going to look at in the near future. Again, I split this agile capability into a immediate term, mid-term, and a long term. Immediate term, what's going to happen, what we can expect all the supply chain organizations to look into it, is obviously people would start talking a lot around the demand sensing, want to understand consumer requirements. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on SNOP, sales and operations planning, because they want to manage the demand and supply in a better way. We will see very less noise around the fill rate, what if, etc. I think already Dr. Sinha has covered. People, every organization, every team within the organization will look at re-establishing the business, re-look at getting into the business back, versus firefighting on fill rate, what if, on time in full measures, etc. There will be a lot of focus on things around the contactless economy, which we are seeing that companies will start building some of the e-commerce sort of a capability. Very importantly, in the immediate term, we will look at organizations are going to spend a lot of time in bringing back their partners into the business, whether it's suppliers, contract manufacturers, transporters, distributors. Everyone is going to get into a financial trouble, and getting them back into the business is going to be a major immediate term focus for the organizations. So what is going to happen from an agile capabilities from a midterm point of view? I think midterm companies will start focusing on all the agility levers like lead time, inventory, manufacturing capacity, production frequency. All those things they will start looking at, in a deeper way. And organization will look into more like more on the less human touch in the supply chain. And obviously, one thing which is really worries me, that most of the organization would put their current investment plans in back burner. Investment in terms of process, infrastructure, new products, new capabilities, I think they will put on a pause, and then they will reroute some of this investment. That's going to happen from my perspective in midterm. And the long term, obviously there will be a lot of discussion on network decisions, de-risking measures, and organizations would start trying to get into new categories and adjacencies in the business, especially into telehealth, wellness, online capabilities, etc. You will see a lot of things would happen around portfolio rationalization. Many companies would exit some of the businesses which are quite irrelevant post-COVID world. So that's around the A, which is the agility in the road. Now, quickly on to the D, which is the digitization in the supply chain, right? This has always been a big spoken topic. That's what Paresh is also trying to touch upon. But one of the biggest learning from this pandemic event is make us to realize or internalize that most of the global supply chains are still paper based and manual based, which is very disheartening to say that. But digitization has always been preached rather than practiced, right? End-to-end supply chain, connecting your customers to your suppliers, digitally fully connected. Only less than 5% organization can say that they have been arrived. If you look at what is the learning from this pandemic event is, we could not able to do any scenario planning. We could not able to really thrive on information sharing between partners, logistics providers, the suppliers, the contract manufacturers, etc. Information sharing was been really affected. We are not able to integrate any alternate partners. the fundamental data availability for any decision making is not really happening in the most stressful time like this, is completely broken. And along with that, I think the post-COVID world, the supply chain there's going to be a lot of focus on cost as an element, right? And we will see a lot of new age solutions being adapted by companies like robotic process automation, process mining, intelligent automation. So where they want to really, enterprise want to reduce the cost, bringing more automated solutions, etc. That would become more way of life, right? And there are a lot of students in this webinar. So these are all the areas which is going to really thrive. I would see more investments going to be pumped into autonomous planning, buyer seller digital integrations, investment into new capabilities like cloud, data science, robotic process automation, which is going to go up very, very significantly from my point of view. More on digitization. The third
Sure.
thing,
Yeah,
the,
good.
the third thing is around the in the road, which is about the woe, which is about the offshoring. Offshoring, I think I could see a lot of questions coming up on offshoring. And offshoring with respect to both manufacturing and service. I would want to split into manufacturing and service. Manufacturing is an interesting thing. Everyone is aware in the community. 30% manufacturing, global manufacturing is based in China versus 3% in India. I think this is going to throw up a lot of opportunity for India as a country, from a manufacturing point of view. You might have seen a lot of discussions with countries like Japan, UK, South Korea have already started happening. But interesting watch out is one of my, I was talking to my colleague, the interesting point is around the labor market. You can see that the economy in every country is shrunk by 25%, alarming rate of unemployment rate, etc. So every country would try to retain the manufacturing within themselves. That could be one of the potential outcome. But India is always, we are been always trying to thrive on the capability play versus a cost play. This is a high time that we need to demonstrate capability, reliability in the global supply chain, so as to become more like the global hub for manufacturing. And obviously every corporation is going to be under a severe cost pressure. Offshoring the services is going to be one of the major imperative every organization is going to look at it. Even a company, for an example, a company which never looked at margin, like I take an
Parts about offshoring. We'll have a special question for that. Yes, sir.
sure. So the quick thing is around a company like let me take an example of a company like Zara, who might have not even looked at profitability as a factor. They will start looking at it. So which means that they will look at offshoring or outsourcing capabilities, right? Which is going to be a very big boom, at least for India, if you ask me. And given the talent pool what we have, etc. And we have tremendous opportunity for us to take the lion's share of those offshoring thing which would happen, right? And the organization would really thrive to get rid of their high cost in-house IT spend, etc. So they will start building a lot of IT and digital capabilities in an offshore way. So what does it mean to supply chain, right? You can see a lot of planning hub, global planning in-house centers being set up in a low cost and a capable destination, not only to India, but there are opportunity for such centers.
Let me point this question to Dr. Sinha. So basically, Dr. Sinha, we have been hearing that this is like a demonetization movement in India, and where people are actually speaking about new normal. And probably like UPI payments became very prominent after demonetization. So what would be such things that would exist in post-COVID?
Yeah, one thing we are seeing is the emergence of the new distribution channels for the products. Many things which are not distributed through e-com companies are now getting distributed. The food delivery companies are distributing now the FMCG products. So we would see many more such new distribution channels opening up as a result of this pandemic. Fruits and vegetables directly from the farm to the housing societies. These are some of the new things which are happening. Another change that I see is over a period of time, there has been a reduction in consumers' tolerance time to wait for a product. So earlier, if a consumer was willing to wait for a week to get certain items, then after Amazon started promising the next day delivery, then the same day delivery, now within a 2-hour delivery, the consumer's tolerance time for getting the product has been coming down consistently. And this is a secular trend which has played out over decades as such. During the pandemic, we have seen a reversal of this trend. So consumers are willing to wait for a day, place their order a day in advance and get their vegetables and fruits the next day.
Right.
Now, will this sustain in the new normal? We need to see. But if the value proposition is strong, if waiting for a day means that I get my vegetables and fruits directly from the farm and really fresh vegetables, then it's worth waiting for it. So consumers may give up on the tolerance time in lieu of getting fresh products and cheaper products directly from the farm without any middlemen involved. So many of these things will play out. And this is the right time for startups to think of different business models. Like we saw a huge number of startups after the 2008-2009 financial crisis, and many of them are now the biggest names in the world. So similarly, I expect a lot of startups to challenge the status quo in various things, whether it's distribution, whether it's the way consumers' needs are fulfilled in terms of new products and services. But a lot of startups will emerge, and many of them will be very good names in future.
Sure. So, Mr. Saurabh, follow up of the question. They say it's like it would be something like before COVID and after COVID, BC and AC kind of thing. So, what would be the new things that you think the new normal, specifically in logistics sector? People have been speaking about contactless delivery system, more of track and trace. But what kind of new ideas that will come up, which are probably critical for logistics sector?
I think from a strategic perspective, there are 2-3 things that we need to keep in mind. Murugan has covered a lot of points in this subject, but we will have to, have 2 frame of minds, 2 time frames in our mind. I think that's what I mean. The first is that I think Dr. Rakesh has rightly highlighted that we are learning to have more patience as a consumer. And also as a enterprises, as a companies. I think we all need to have patience in the short to mid term, which I mean that, for the first quarter, we should have a time frame in mind or a thought process in mind that the business would be negligible, because you should understand, and Dr. Rakesh pointed out in the starting, where is the consumer? The consumer is focusing on basics. Consumer is today focusing on basics, which essentially means that he's buying things, his requirements have changed in the near term. So what happens as a result of this is that there's a section of business which suddenly gets activated, hyperactive, things like your last mile logistics, deliveries and essential items, and all those things get hyperactive. And there's a section of businesses, logistics is there in both the segments, which becomes totally dormant. There's a huge logistics related to IKEA. What is IKEA doing now? I don't have to answer that question. IKEA has the biggest shop in Hyderabad, and every day you can see about 200 trucks of Gati KWE. But where are those? So I give an example, and there are so many other businesses like retail, luxury, household. There's a lot of things which are there, durables. They're nowhere to be seen now. So we all as a business have to first figure out where is our business, whether we are in bucket A or bucket B. If we are in bucket, bucket A, we have to become very hyperactive, and there are setups which is supporting us, the institutional and the government setup. If you are in bucket B, we have to be calm down. Nothing is going to happen much. If we start struggling, I'm losing 1 lakh, I'm losing 2 lakh, it's not going to happen, because I think the focus of the entrepreneurs, the focus of such retailers, the focus of such businesses should be on how do you sustain Q1. And the entire energy should focus on cash flow management and, shrinking the business to sustain, first quarter or so. And the impact that we are seeing today is going to last, by any standard, it will last till the end of this year. Only next year, you will see, anything tending or, merging towards the, state pre-COVID, as you say, PC. So that's where we are looking at a situation where, if you look at manpower, many of the businesses, we will have to figure out how do we, there are 2 aspects to manpower. The first aspect to manpower is how do you scale up or scale down the manpower to align to the business, align to your business reality with whatever, maximum that you can stretch within your resources. And that each one has to take their own decisions. The second part of manpower is that yes, in the near to mid term, which I am seeing till the end of this financial year, we'll have to be prepared for contactless logistics to a large extent, and there's a rapid deployment of technology. And I just give you an example that for international trade, customs custodians, now we are talking about all e-document, which essentially means that from ICE system, which customs national integrated system, and our system, we are all talking about documents which will move from one server to another server, which will be just authenticated documents based on which the workflow will happen remotely. And there's a rapid, I should say there's a rapid adoption of technology just to avoid the contact, between. The third thing I also want to say that this is from a short term, and I don't want to elongate my point, and I can speak on some other areas as we go ahead. From a long-term perspective, very important that I see it as a positive development, wherein people will look at their transnational manufacturing supply chain. How much they should depend on a particular country or a particular region. If you see now, what's happening is that there's a new boundary which has come, and it's like India is one boundary, and every country is one boundary. And today, anything for which you are dependent on boundaries beyond your country is as good as nothing. You cannot travel, you cannot even attend a funeral, if it is there in Colombo. Just giving an example, which is just, down. Forget about your goods moving. Forget about any non-essential goods moving. You can't do business with only essential goods. So I think there'll be a country, and if you look at overall, today, every country is sending their aircrafts where they're all sending their aircrafts to China. And that's the country we've gone. And why they're sending? Because whatever little they require today to manufacture is only available in China. Whether you talk about Germany, whether you talk about UK, US, India, and it's a big, if you read the articles, and I'm not saying anything official, it's about personal reading of the articles. It's an achievement for any country or any nation or any state if a flight lands from China and brings in 10 tons of raw materials. So I think there'll be a good change in this setup, and you will see more and more manufacturing coming into India because we have a bigger economy, we are a skilled economy, we have a lot of resources, and from a long-term perspective, I see it positive. That's how I see it, Paresh.
So you touched upon a very important point about moving to China and about offshoring, and Mr. Murugan also had touched upon that point about offshoring, which was probably the most important part. I would like to ask you this specific question, Dr. Sinha. People have been speaking about offshoring, and now it's probably, and globalization has been there for quite some time, and US companies have been beneficial has been the biggest beneficiaries about offshoring. So would the market trend to change somewhere, or is it going to be the similar thing? How and if that, in such cases, like there have been many questions as well in our chat box and previously asked, would India also tend towards becoming manufacturing hub? So, or what do you see as a global scenario of offshoring in terms of supply chains?
Good companies adopt to offshoring only to those countries where they see reliable operations. So offshoring just for the sake of saving some cost somewhere is not a common practice. It's done by a few companies, small ones, but those companies don't survive for long. So really good companies look for only those offshoring options where they see a reliable supply. And of course, if it comes at a lower cost, it's okay. But if you see between two options, one which is reliable and slightly costlier, another which is not so reliable but cheaper, I think companies will go for more reliable, even if it's a bit costlier. And in that way, India stands a chance to gain more of this offshoring component of companies. But India needs to work on improving both the production efficiency and the infrastructure. Because offshoring would mean that offshoring coming to India would mean a lot of goods would need to move to the port or the airports and then get transported from there. So internal infrastructure, the port infrastructure, the basic industrial infrastructure, the labor markets, all need to improve. India is at fairly good position to start doing that and start on this improvement journey simultaneously. So I see a lot of benefits coming to India.
Sure. So we are running out of time. We have just 15 minutes left. We will have to take questions. So before we take questions, Mr. Murugan, I want you to touch upon a quick aspects about what are the new things in technology that you spoke about RPA and many things about technology that's going to be important. And when we are speaking about contactless delivery systems and everything, fundamentally, Mr. Saurabh has stressed upon a point saying that documents, the moment of documents probably will go away. That means that probably technologies like blockchain will come into foray. So what do you think about what are the new technology advancements that you can see, which probably can become new normal in the entire arena of supply chain?
Yeah. So Paresh, this is something what kind of I touched upon. I think Saurabh brought in a very live example that we could not able to move anything during this pandemic because we are not digitally connected, right? First of all, I would see a lot of investment, a lot of movements to happen in terms of connecting your partners in the supply chain digitally. Then that leads to the transactions are going to be on a e-basis versus a document based, and it is not only Indian companies. Unfortunately, a lot of global organizations are truly a paper based organization, right? So there will be a lot of low cost connecting like E2 Open, or there are a lot of platform providers which would enable you to connect with your partners, whether with across your supply chain. That's number one. Number two, which is around the automation, right? Eliminating the people interventions, ensure that you are, because always supply chain is a cost center, right? They will look at bringing in more efficiencies in the supply chain, right? And which is going to be through the process mining, which is going to be around the intelligent automation related area. And there are a lot of work is going to happen around even data and analytics. For an example, you would able to avoid your complete reporting organization if you go for a self-service reporting and visibility creation, right? So there is going to be a lot of emphasis on the technology which is going to cut your manual interventions and bring in more visibility. That's the second portion. The third portion which I can clearly see coming in our way is the learning from the pandemic. Most of the global organizations are still doing the planning. Sizable companies are doing planning based on Excel sheets, right? They were doing some sort of an investment into a APO related solutions. I would see those investments are going to get a little accelerated, and people would look for some cutting edge planning solutions, which requires what we called as a no touch planning, or a exception based planning sort of areas, because so that you would able to do your complete end-to-end planning without human intervention. So that's a third area where we will see a lot of technology investment going to happen on a planning solutions. Those were the three areas what I can think of. And sorry, so in fact, that brings back to the road what I was trying to complete, right? Offshoring, agility, and offshoring, agility, and digitization. The first R is about resilience. I think Saurabh brought in that point. One thing which makes us really feeling painful is about all the past, we always bringing in resiliency, risk management as a topic of discussion in the board during only the epidemic or a black swan events. The moment you get out of it, you get into your daily firefighting, right? I would see more investment going on to the resiliency related areas, right? When I say resiliency, it is not only resiliency from an infrastructure point of view, your physical network. It is going to be resiliency on your IT, resiliency on your processes, resiliency on the governance, resiliency on the organization and infrastructure. So all those five areas, how there you will see technology getting in the way to really model, saying that how your supply chain would operate with and without this sort of risk management, etc. There will be a boom for organizations which are thriving in this space. So those are all the areas what I can think of, Paresh.
So I'm taking a few questions from the Q&A panel. So one of the important question is, will SCM move into more hyperlocal markets from centralized warehousing, where the current scheme of things? And we've been speaking about even this earlier. So Dr. Sinha, can you touch upon the business models that were there about how B2B business specifically has been moving towards hyperlocal markets and the sector?
I think it will continue to be a mix of hyperlocal markets and other relatively far off markets. Now, the mix could change. It depends on the product portfolio. For some products, where the demand fluctuation is extremely high, like in case of hand sanitizer now that we see. And there could be different products for different during different times of crisis. More will shift to hyperlocal markets, but the products which are more stable in terms of their demand, companies could continue to run 80% from the current way of running, and maybe move only 15-20% to the local markets. So depends on the product portfolio, and depends on the type of crisis that we encounter in future.
So there's another question about how do small business owners actually take care of this such kind of. So how do they actually build resilience? We have been speaking about resilience a lot, and for large companies it should be good. But for as a small business owner, how do they actually tackle this? Any suggestions on that? Open to anyone in the panel.
So, yeah, Murugan, please go ahead.
So I'll just make it short, and Saurabh, you can take it over. My only single word answer is, I think the owner driven companies or owner run companies are having more, they are more equipped, and they have more flexibility to do resiliency faster than any multi-billion corporations, right? And that's what my take would be, right? And one of the conversations with Dr. Sinha is around the multinationals or a corporation's thinking is the resiliency always comes with additional dollars, additional investment, additional people, which is not true. If you look from an entrepreneur point of view, if you are looking at a small Indian business, it is not going to come at additional cost. It is a way you think about resiliency as a whole, and how you are going to look at your business as a whole, right? It is, for me, if you ask me, with the right guidance, it should be coming to you at no cost. Maybe over to you, Saurabh.
It saves cost actually.
Yeah. Paresh, over the last 5 minutes, I have quickly jotted down 5 to 6 questions. So I will quickly answer some of those, and maybe then you can take up the remaining, so that in the interest of time, we'll move ahead. I think one question was on future of consulting business. I think it's a very good question, and I just want to tell you briefly that consulting is an evergreen business. You're doing good, you will have consultants, and you're not doing good also, you will have consultants. I think consultancy business has a lot of resilience, what Murugan was saying, and also flexibility. And in fact, consultants are known for quick learning. So you just need to move from focusing on too much of aggression, growth, and risk to understanding the company and consumer, and focusing and tailoring your offering. And today I see not one, every consultant, right from BCG till whether you say Mazars or till KPMG, everybody has quickly evolved, and they're coming out with products which are relevant to us. So be chill about and be happy about the fact that you are in consulting and most flexible area. The second question was on agri supply chain. I think, as I said, and Dr. Sinha also said, in focus has changed. Fundamentally, we are in the near term, we are looking at things which are more fundamental, more basic. A lot of focus on agri supply chain, even at the central level, at the government level. They're only focusing on how you move agriculture. And in fact, you'll be surprised, there are millions of Indians in Middle East and London, and they're not getting what they generally eat. And the flights are coming just to take the corianders and chilies. Just giving you an example, among a lot of other things, including mangoes. So agri supply chain, the only crux is that because there's a shock in the supply chain, it will take just a matter of few more weeks. Or at least less than a month for the shock to get normal, and the agri supply chain will continue to move on, and it will reach to its regular demand level. It will not increase twice, it will not become half, but agri supply chain will come back, because people can't live without eating what they want to eat. So it's just a matter of time that agri supply chain comes back. I don't see major changes happening. I think the supply chain major changes, fundamental structural infrastructure changes will take a long time. So I don't think we should be talking about that as of now. I think another question was, when do you expect the demand to jump back? As I said, in general, demand will not jump back in this quarter. So please don't be so hopeful that, at the moment the lockdown is moved on 3rd of May or 7th of May, depending on which state you are in, your demands will come back. You should be mentally prepared to see a business of between -20 to -40% as to how you are able to manage your business, doing it stress test. Because I think it will take time for people to move from their basics into other things that they were. Then there's one question on SCM software, supply chain software. I think please be in that field, because I feel that's that field will it's going to, every company will go back to their supply chain software vendor to come out with something new. As Murugan was saying, all those process automation, everything has to link to the basic SCM ERP. Other than that, if that's not happening, nothing will move. All the messaging and PDF and e-document has to be integrated with ERP. So a lot of work for companies like, I don't want to name the companies, but yes, supply chain companies will do good. And the last question, China shift. China shift will happen. We are not looking at China becoming 60 to 20, but even if China becomes 60 to 40, India will become double. So things will happen. So Paresh, I have done half of you. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you very much for that. So one major question, we just have 5 minutes left before we close. There are two major questions. One is, what is the advice for students on SCM and operations? Because there are a lot of students on our panel today, on our meeting today. And most important part also is, how do you think pandemic will actually change the job scenario for professionals in supply chain? So can you just quickly, each of you just touch upon the points? We have just 4 minutes left. 1 minute each. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start. So for the students, the right things to learn are again the basics. Don't go by the most prevalent ways of running supply chain. Most of them are suboptimal. Go for what is the best way of running, what your heart tells you is the right way to run supply chain. Believe in that, have the courage of conviction, and then go into the industry and then run the way you feel is the right way. That would be my advice to the students.
Sure. Mr. Murugan, any advice for students?
Sorry. So I think Dr. Sinha has covered it well. I think always the 1, 2, 3s and the ABCs, what we learned is always going to take you to your PhDs and post doctoral programs, etc. So ensure that your foundation is very good, and the agility, flexibility, how do you run a JIT operation, etc. That's fundamental. Just ensure that you are very strong at it. But just to add on top of it, what is going to basically, the question is around what is going to change. I think a lot of new capabilities which we talked about so far, whether it is the resiliency, whether it is offshoring, whether it is about agility, whether it is about the digitization, which is on the road, these areas are going to be thriving, at least in the midterm. I would not say long term, but midterm, people would, any student would expect to know some of these elements, and so that's to implement in the organization. Pick one. I will not advise you to be a jack of all trades. Pick one and go very depth, and try to become a kind of near to an expert in that space. That would be my advice.
That's great. Mr. Saurabh, can you just quickly touch upon your thoughts about what's important?
See, as students and as professionals entering supply chain, I think you are entering in a phase where you're marked with near-term, jerk. So just have some patience. You are in the right profession, you are in right college. The time is wrong, but the time is moving fast. So have some patience. Second thing is just understand the trends. I think a lot of things has been said by Dr. Sinha and Murugan and myself. You see where the trends are moving in the near to midterm. There is learnings, and it is clearly, if you're following the session, there are 2-3 learnings which has come. So I think we are moving into technology, moving into contactless, moving into more de-risk business. I think these 3 terminologies I've used, and there are a few other things. So in supply chain and logistics, which is a very wide thing, you need to focus on the part of the value chain where these elements are more prominent. And I think you should, as people from top B schools, I think most of them are top B schools, and I just want to be slightly more relevant here. Just focus on areas where your intellectual capabilities and your deep domain knowledge of supply chain and the new trends you're able to leverage. Don't focus on the other part of the supply chain, and I don't want to be very specific, which are more generic, more replaceable, more common, and which will get into that contactless area, and you might have a problem. So with this, I'm sure if you have understood the direction that I'm trying to say. So my 1 minute is over.
Absolutely sure. So we are also just in time. We are done. So thank you very much for the panel members. We had a lovely audience of 250 people almost joining in the Zoom call, and about at least 200 plus on the live YouTube video. Thank you very much for being in this panel. I would like to take a couple of moments to thank everyone. I would like to thank NITIE, my alma mater, and especially Sumija ma'am and Rajni ma'am for giving a lot of support, and the student team, Rashmi and Saisri and Vishal. They have been really helpful in sending the message across to everyone. Thank you, guys. I would also like to thank my team at WOW who has put down across. We got a huge response across the thing. So everyone at my team, we've been working towards this. Thank you very much. So also at the end of the call, you'll also get a feedback form. Just give us a quick insights about how did you feel the session was, any new thing that you would want, and any other sessions that you would like us to organize. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us in this wonderful session on the future of supply chain.
Thanks, Paresh. Thanks, guys. Stay safe, stay home. Bye-bye.
Stay safe, stay home.
Thanks, Paresh.
Bye. Bye, Paresh.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Rakesh ji. Thanks, Murugan. Thanks, Rahul, Krishnan.